Hey there, welcome to First Glance with Jody Vance. This is where we get you studied up on opportunities in the markets. And if you're thinking, I do not have enough money to invest, maybe you do. You don't have to have a lot to get into the game. And once you get into the game, if you do it in the right way, you might find that you have more to play with. It's not just for stuffed shirts and pocket squares anymore. It's for all of us to get invested in, but we got to learn about the people behind the products, behind the services, behind the stocks, and we're going to do that yet again today on the First Glance with Jody Vance. Next up here is Plus Products. The stock symbol is PLUS. Plus Products. Co-founder and CEO Jake Highmark is with us. Hi, Jake.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I'm glad to be with you because I got to tell you, I've had a couple of conversations about similar cannabis discussions. We talked to Delic on the program and talking specifically about psychedelics, but we went down the path of the history of cannabis. And your company, Plus Products, seems to be addressing one of the number one sort of issues that people like myself, chickens, want. Like, I want to know that I can count on the product that I am purchasing to deliver, like the glass of wine gives me the glass of wine. Or the shot of tequila feels like a shot of tequila, because I don't want a shot of tequila if I feel like a glass of wine. So I'm looking at Plus Products. Can you give us the Coles Notes about who you are in that regard?
Sure. Plus is an edibles company in California. We started about 5 years ago. And I think very early on, as I was starting to learn about the industry, and my background had been in technology before, I noticed that my wife was consuming a lot of cannabis and mostly smoking. Now, I don't know much about the science of smoking, and really none of us do. It's still very early. But I have learned through very successful public health programs that smoking's bad for you. Which meant that edibles were an alternative. But then most of the edibles that exist on the market, like one time I'd be stuck in a couch for days, and the next time it wouldn't work at all.
Right.
And so we started Plus. I have a co-founder who's a chef at 2 Michelin-star restaurants. He's an amazing genius when it comes to food. And the two of us came together and created Plus. We've sell an assortment of edibles. We sell gummies. We sell mints. And we've got some really interesting stuff in the works for next year as well.
So when people talk about edibles, and like I said, we've been having a couple of conversations here on this series with companies that are aspiring to be like Plus, if I may. How do you and your co-founder manage and guarantee the similar experience time and again for whatever the reason of consuming an edible might be, whether it be medicinal or recreational?
So I think it all starts with understanding, what do you want the customer to feel, and where does that North Star really lie? And then you spend your entire life trying to make sure the products get there, right? Yeah. And some of that is in a science. We do a lot of testing. We test about 5 times per batch, which is more than anybody else in the industry. But we also have a really good team who make sure that on top of all the machinery, on top of all of the science, the consistency that they have every time in making the product is there as well. Because no matter how much you tune your machinery, no matter how much you tune your science, if your team that's making it doesn't get up and go to sleep every day excited about the product that they're making, you can't get it right. And that's what we've really unlocked at Plus.
So, Jake, walk me through a little bit of the history and where you are here Q3 2020.
So our company's been around for years, about 5, and we started in my parents' garage in California, making our first edibles. And we're now, I think, on our 4th factory, maybe even 5th in the company here in California. It's in Southern California, in a little city just between Los Angeles and Las Vegas in the high desert, in a city called Adelanto. And what we have grown from is basically a non-existent company with not many sales, being one of the larger ones in California. We sell products at more than 300 dispensaries, about 18 different products right now. I think one major difference between us and our competitors is some of our competitors will have to the tune of 100, 120 products. And we believe that fewer and better is actually a simpler way to the customer's heart, because then they actually understand what you're giving them. To really focus on having a few really key winners. In fact, we're now starting to push the edge of what it means to be an edible. So we've focused on taking what we see across a cannabis shop. There's all these different kinds of cannabis, very different, confusing words like hash and rosin and live resin and all these different words that mean different things. And translating that into what works into an edibles environment has been a really interesting challenge and something that we've been very successful at.
I love the idea of removing the smoke piece from the experience. Yet for those of us, when I call myself a chicken, edibles has always been a hard stop for me because I have witnessed the person hit the floor. Like you said, hit the couch for 2 days. And I'm just like, no, thank you on that cookie for me. I'm good. I'll just, going with what I know, have the glass of wine or whatever. But I'd love to be able to do that. And it sounds to me that you're tapping into something that a different market is kind of where I'm going here. Like, who was your target 5 years ago? Who is your target today? Because I kind of feel like as a 53-year-old woman, I might kind of be your target.
We find that our products really work well for people who want to do the same thing almost every day, right? So the question is really, why are you using cannabis? There are a bunch of different reasons why people use cannabis. Some are trying to take the edge off their day. Some are trying to sleep. Some are trying to escape like some stress elsewhere.
Okay,
right?
all three for me. That's me.
And the question is, what product's right for that time? And look, what we make at Plus is not going to be right for every moment. But what we found is really great customers who want consistency in a product that's low dose they can take at the end of every day, sort of that transition moment between when the work day and when you're unwinding at home. That's the moment where Plus really shines. And that consistency that you can get from an edible is actually, if you trust the company, if they get it right every time, then actually becomes part of your routine. And I think when it comes to building brands in cannabis, which a lot of companies are trying to do, a brand isn't a package. A brand isn't a statement. A brand isn't something that somebody says on the shelf. A brand is when somebody has your product over and over and over. It takes years to build. And then when it's missing on their pantry shelf, they go, I'm out. I have to get more. And that's when you have a brand.
Where's the list? You need to put the plus on the list.
Exactly.
Again, Plus Products, just so you know, if you're just tuning in, stock symbol PLUS. We're with Jake Highmark, who is the co-founder and CEO of Plus Products. Now, Jake, with you in the California and Nevada markets, as you've referenced, and I mean, we're in Canada. I am anyway. Equity Guru is based out of Vancouver. And so here in Canada, pot's legal. Like we're living this reality, and leading up to the legalization of recreational use, there were so many naysayers that were like, "Oh, hell's going to break loose. This is going to be mayhem. It's going to be pandemonium." And now we're seeing in the United States more and more states are either decriminalizing completely or legalizing recreational. And I know I see the movement on Twitter mostly is where I'm seeing people really speak about it. How do you plan to sort of put that Plus footprint across the country and maybe across North America and further?
I think that the combination of the presidential elections, but even more importantly, a bunch of ballot initiatives this past election cycle was really important as an indicator of where the country's going. Something that's a little bit odd about the US is it's not one giant federal system, right? We have a patchwork of states, and actually even here in California, a patchwork of local regulations as well. And so something that many people don't know, but I'm super excited by because it says, hey, this is a real moment for cannabis, is that of the ballot initiatives in California for local jurisdictions to open, say, their town to a cannabis dispensary, more than 80% of them passed. That is a very high number. And what that means is that there are going to be a lot more stores here in California. There are going to be a lot more states that are opening up. There are states like Montana, which I never thought I'd be talking about, that are becoming pro-cannabis. Who would have thought?
Who would have thought?
Exactly. Not me. No. But I think it really speaks to the fact that cannabis solves problems. Yeah. And as we look at what has been a terrible, terrible year for the world, I mean, there's just, this pandemic has just not been good for so many different reasons. Cannabis is something that can A, help people, and B, provide a source of tax revenue for states. And that's going to be really important. So long story is there's a lot of reasons for Plus to take what is our winning model in California and go to other states. We've done that well in Nevada. There are more than 300 brands in Nevada. We went from basically non-existent to being one of the top 3 brands there in short order, and we expect to do that in other places. I think that there are states that are more exciting than other ones, but you have to kind of tune in all the time to know how stuff is changing because it changes quickly.
Okay, so when people want to tune in to Plus Products, where are they going?
So our website's plusproducts.com. You can sign up for our IR email newsletter, and we let people know a lot of things and different things that we're seeing in the industry. Today, if I look at the industry and where the most exciting opportunities are, there are states like Michigan, which have really fast developing markets. There are states like New Jersey, which are attractive not just because of the size of the state and the regulations they've got, but also because of their proximity to other states as well. Massachusetts is having a very successful market. And I think that if anything is clear, cannabis in 2021 is going to be very different from cannabis in 2020 and 2019. There's a lot more going on.
There's a lot more growing up. Also going up are your gross profits. So people looking to sort of get in on the Plus Products ground floor, if you will, even though you've been established for some time since you were making edibles in your parents' garage. Getting in now versus waiting until there is, a broader sort of overarching American sort of mandate when it comes to cannabis products. Getting in now is good for the investor. Why? What's your pitch?
So the moment for Plus is exactly this moment. And the reason why is because we spent all of 2020 really focusing on getting our cost controls in place. I think a lot of companies grow very, very quickly, but then they find that the core structure, the backbone of their business isn't there. I think there are, especially in this industry, a lot of companies who talk about doing that, but doing it's another thing. We've raised our gross margins from 20 to up north of 40 in some cases. We've taken our business from what was a cash flow negative position, significant one, to basically being cash flow neutral and earnings positive. We're trending toward that very, very early next year. That is the moment at which we dial up everything we're doing just a little bit, and our backbone's so strong that it grows really well. I think that's the difference between Plus and a lot of other companies right now.
And before we let you go, I want to just sort of pick your brain a little bit at Equity Guru, and certainly here on First Glance with Jody Vance, we're all about education and sort of finding out the people behind successful companies such as Plus Products. And I wonder if you might be able to sort of give the novice investor a little bit of advice or a little bit of a peek into what your first investment was and why you made the decision to take some of your hard-earned money and invest it in another company. What made you do it?
So when I was in high school, I had a neighbor who worked at Apple. And he got me a summer internship before I went to college. Now, I can't stress how unimportant I was at Apple. This is actually the year the iPhone launched. I was there. He was in the marketing division, and I was interning for him, mostly scanning papers into a printer for him. And I turned to him and I said, "Did you know this was going to launch?" And he said, "Absolutely. It's the thing I've been working on." I had no idea I'd been there 3 months. That just tells you how important I was and how
Very.
But because I was at the company and all they were talking about was their stock and all this excitement, I put $1,000 into Apple. And I can say confidently, I sold it when I had $1,500, and that was not a good trade. So I'd say when you find a good company, keep your money there and believe in the long term. So if there's anything that I learned from that experience, it was that. And that was a good experience.
I love it, but you took out your initial investment and then some. You played it super safe. Unfortunately, so safe that you probably
I did. And I didn't know about taxes or long-term capital gains or anything else at the time either.
So many lessons. Jake, thank you for doing this. What a pleasure to chat with you. Please keep us updated on everything happening at Plus Products. I'm fascinated.
Will do. Thanks for having me, and stay safe out there.